The word that comes to mind is the word stewardship. When I think about relationships, whether it's marriage, dating, married again, whether it's parenting, in any sphere, church-related issues, societal, governmental issues, year of election, I'm thinking of the stewardship, how we manage what has been given to us. And I use the word stewardship because if you think about it, by nature, we are not driven towards cohesiveness and oneness. How do I know this? Well, because when we were born with a tendency for divisiveness, for egocentric mindset. It's about me. And when it's about me, obviously, the tendency is to see relationships through a indulgence type of a self-gratification experience. And this is why when it comes to know Christ, when it comes to know Jesus, it's precisely the shifting of the mind from what's in for me to now the stewardship of the management, that now relationships is no longer a capstone. I mentioned this at the beginning. It's not a capstone, it's a cornerstone. And it's a foundational experience where the relationship becomes the vehicle towards something greater versus idolizing those relationships or making it our identity. You know, many of us tragically, we depend on, who approves us or who stands with us or who rejects us. And anyways, I'm thinking of, again, some of the greatest experiences in life are related to relationships. The birth of a child. This is just amazing thing. The wedding, when you come into this oneness of marriage, but also when you bury a loved one, when you go through divorce. So it's kind of at the both end of that experience. The question comes again, how do you steward this? How do you manage what has happened to you? In the book of Ephesians, Paul begins this whole narrative of oneness. That's exactly one of the issues that the church in Ephesus is facing the reality of poor stewardship. They have idolized and they have gotten to the place where now it's about them versus, again, the God who brought them together and how God brought them together. And then ultimately is vulnerability. They become very, see, there's a reason why Ephesians ends with the armor of God, because stewardship in the context of relationships is about an aggressiveness, is about a proactivity. And I'm thinking of the word offensive mindset. It's about, again, taking action. And obviously when Paul goes through those last verses of chapter 6, is precisely the approach to prepare the stewardship of relationships through the understanding of a spiritual battle. The unseen world is the understanding that if life was a train, and you can see a train, in the image of a train, the engine is going to be the spiritual component. The cards, I will say, those are potentially your thoughts and your rationale, and then the caboose becomes maybe your emotions. Well, Paul is approaching this concept of relationship, especially the armor of God, spiritual warfare, the stewardship of the relationship through the engine. It's a spiritual manner. This is why we began the conversation on relationships by the one true God, who is three persons, who they lived and operate and reveal himself in the context of relationships. And that relationship of the triune God provides and gives us the ability to shift the train around, because by nature we're driven by the caboose. By nature, we typically think, if I feel it, I must do it. What's in for me? Well, when you shift the train around and you begin with the engine versus the caboose, that is the work of the triune God. That is the supernatural intervention that Paul is bringing into Ephesians. We'll talk about Ephesians more in the next conversations, and I want to thank you guys for sticking around. God bless.